Hi, welcome to What the Flick. I am Christy. This is Alonzo. This is Matt. This is Ben. We are all here because sometimes we are positive and like things, and this is one of those times.
But not today.
This rare little nugget of time is one of those times where we're going to like things.
Right.
This is the best of 2016. We're going to each pick our favorite movie from last year and then tell each other why we're wrong. Who wants to go first?
Well,
Ladies first.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Ben.
La La Land. La La Land. And I might not be the only person here saying that. And it is, yes, it is beautiful. And yes, it is romantic. I was wowed by the meticulousness of it, the craft of it from the very first opening number. But also I admire later on just the daring of the darkness of it. And I don't want to give anything away if you haven't seen it, but I appreciate that it will go in directions that you may not expect and are not necessarily happy endings. And I just loved it and I was moved by it. And it's a great LA movie. It is a great homage to classic musicals. Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling are just charming as hell. Yes, they can sing and dance. Come on, guys. And people are like, they can't sing, they can't dance.
I tell you, doesn't the criticism of La La Land make me like it more? Like, I just find almost every bit of criticism that it's, the cast is not diverse and it doesn't reflect jazz right, or I don't know. I'm not saying that, I don't give a shit how jazz is depicted in
Let's
movies.
be frank.
But I mean, I get the jazz fans wouldn't, so talk about it amongst yourselves. But the notion that every movie has to carry the diversity banner, it's just like it's an issue, diversity in movies, and it should be. But when you start hammering a movie like La La Land for lacking it or for having token character, I mean, every character who wasn't Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling in that movie is a token character. It's about them and only them.
Supporting, yeah. Well, that was like, the awards pundits were like, oh, does La La Land not getting a Best Ensemble nomination from the SAG Awards hurt its Oscar chances? I'm like, there's no ensemble. There's just two stars. And then like a bunch of people. And John Legend, and everybody else has 4 lines, Come
anyway,
on.
I know it's a really obvious choice and it's going to win everything and it has won everything, but I really loved it and I loved it the minute I saw it, so that's my pick.
And if you don't like, there's the musical. It doesn't even, to me, it didn't even feel like a musical. It's obviously a musical, but I mean, the numbers are spread out, which I always appreciated. Somebody told me there were 8 numbers in it, but I don't think that.
Wow.
But some of them are like, you can't count a number where Ryan Gosling and John Legend are performing on stage at a concert. That doesn't seem like
They apparently were
That
counting
counts.
that.
I guess it counts. Yeah.
And the thing is, I mean, they don't sing in the sort of like Howard Keel MGM way, and I think audiences don't necessarily buy that as much these days. Like, it's really hard to pull off a musical of, I have a trained Broadway voice. That's
Right.
This is how we wound up with Russell Crowe in Les Miserables. I think there's this notion that that there has to be a sense of reality in musicals where it sounds like what a normal person might sound like if they started vocalizing, and I think they're above that level, but they are not.
They're not Anna Kendrick. They're not Hugh Jackman.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's a choice, and that's an intentional thing for the film to do.
I like that. It gives some vague realism to it.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my choice. Go, please.
Good choice.
Thank you.
Moonlight.
great choice.
good choice.
Just a movie that blew me away. As I think I've said before, I hate to use the word poetic when describing a movie because that's a turnoff for me. But this movie is poetry. It's gorgeous. It is a fascinating sort of multi-layered look at one life story, and again, I hear these ridiculous. Everybody's nitpicking about it now.
Don't read film Twitter.
No, I mean friends of mine have been saying stuff like, "Oh, well, I can't believe that a guy who looks like Chiron does in the third act of the film is that closed off to his own sexuality." I'm like, you need to meet more people because that happens. That is, if you grow up, hating your sexuality and being constantly told that it's a terrible thing and getting nothing but negative reinforcement, you can look like the sexiest man on earth and still be completely shut off
And
to
it's also
yourself.
And the point of that wasn't that. The point is like that guy's lonely. He's made himself lonely.
Yeah,
He's so
he's walled
unwilling.
himself
He
off.
created armor,
It's
physical
tragic.
armor.
It's tragic. That's right. Yeah.
So anyway, it's a beautiful film, and Barry Jenkins. We had to wait 10 years for another movie from him, but it was certainly worth it. And just a film I think about almost daily. I loved it.
And it's our big winner this weekend. We're having our LA Film Critics Award dinner, and it won what? It won
Picture, director,
supporting actor,
and
screenplay. Cinematography. Yeah.
Austin Taylor Johnson, who's so good in Nocturnal Animals, but it just seems crazy.
Aaron.
Aaron Taylor.
Well, I'm a different dude. Aaron Taylor Johnson. That it's so surprising that
Totally.
That he beat
Ali,
out, yeah.
didn't win. But I suspect that will. I have a sense that'll be the only time.
It's the outdoor toilet scene.
It's the outdoor toilet scene. It's good.
Put him over the edge.
Yeah.
So go ahead, what's yours?
Those are those. You guys have picked the 2 best movies of the year.
They were great. Top it, Matt.
There's a lot of movies I want to pick. It's tough because there are a lot of great
Do
movies.
they all start with the word rogue?
I loved Zootopia, right, which was earlier in the year and I think is getting a little bit overlooked. We're announcing today as the Golden Tomato winner.
Nice.
The Lobster is one of my favorite movies of the year.
Loved
it's
it,
so
loved it.
twisted,
Made my
so
top 10.
crazy.
You're
Absolutely.
introducing.
Yeah, so Lobster is our screenplay winner at LA Film Critics, and the 2 writers couldn't make it, but Colin Farrell is going to come, so I get to give the award to Colin Farrell. So that was one of the ones that
What a lovely choice for screenplay. Good for you.
yeah, like the whole room like cheered because it's such an unusual choice. We didn't pick Manchester. We picked something weird and different. So go ahead.
I loved The Handmaiden.
Yeah.
Absolutely
Also in
loved
my
The
top 10.
Handmaiden.
Me too.
That's another one that's completely off the rails. Crazy and insane, and please watch it because it's great. I loved A Monster Calls. Absolutely was bawling my eyes out at Toronto. But I'm going to go with the last film I saw at Toronto, and it was a movie that I saw and had the opportunity to see a couple more movies before I left Toronto, and stopped because nothing was going to top it. This is a perfect movie, and I'm talking about Moonlight. And I can't say anything else except that it's very rare that we see something that is so perfectly executed. And this movie does nothing wrong. It does everything right, and it's so moving and, like you said, so poetic. It tells a story that you've never even thought of, that it gives you an insight into something that would never have occurred, at least to me. Brilliant performances, and it walks the line between sad and tragic and yet hopeful, and it's one of those movies that, and I think we've talked about this from time to time. Moonlight is the type of movie that you go and see that, and it gives us the hope to sit through January and February as critics. Because this is the type of movie, this is why we do what we do.
Fill your tank.
Right, you see a movie like this, it's like, oh, this is what the art form is. This is what the art form is capable of. It's perfect, and would love to see it win all the awards the rest of the year. La La Land is great, don't get me wrong. Moonlight's the better movie.
Yeah, it makes you feel like, again, you just feel like you understand something much more completely than you did before. And when a movie does that and entertains you, it's impossible to argue against either of those 2 movies. They're
But
really,
you're going to.
Well, no, I'm not picking. Those movies are better than the movie I'm picking. No question. But as always, look, one of my, I have Out of Sight as like my favorite movie of all time. I don't think it's the best movie of all time. It makes me feel a
great
way
movie.
that makes.
It's a great movie.
It's a great movie, and I just couldn't love it more. But I get it. Casablanca's better. The Third Man is better.
I like the second man.
What's
anyway,
that Kane movie?
So I'm going to pick. I tried to not go inside the family, and in fact picked the movie that should have, the Third Man, that should have beaten All About Eve for Best Director. Come on, how do you?
Look at you. All right.
Anyway, Batman versus Superman. I just think it.
No, that's not this. Save that.
Dawn
That's
of
worse.
Justice.
That's
Say the
worse.
whole thing.
Right. I saw the director's cut. It just everything was fixed. To hell. Hell or High Water.
Okay.
That's
I like
my
that one
favorite
too.
movie of the year. Again, I just can't enjoy a movie more than that. Jeff Bridges is sensational in it. You expect him to be sensational. The bar is high for Jeff Bridges in a role like that, playing a Texas Ranger.
That he could have sleptwalked through.
He does not in any way
Yeah,
sleepwalk.
sleepwalking is R.I.P.D.
Yes.
That's what it looks like when
Yes.
Jeff Bridges sleepwalks through that.
But he is terrific in this. And so it's a bank robbing movie with Chris Pine and Ben Foster playing bank robbing brothers, but their motives are fascinating and progressive and complicated. The politics does not get in the way of making this a great story, but there is a political component to it. It's got a cool Western ending. It both feels like it could have been a John Ford Western, and at the same time feels as modern as it is. Great performances throughout, compelling.
Gil Robertson,
Totally, really fantastic, so great. The scenes,
Dale Dickey, Katie Mixon. Yeah, it's a great cast.
yeah. So right, all the way through, and this sort of and layered, complicated looks at all three main characters, and they are fully complete people. One of them obviously ends up being far more evil than the others, but you still like him. You understand where he's coming from. A realistic, believable fraternal bond between Ben Foster and Chris Pine. It's just a great movie, and it's also only an hour 40, 100 minutes, but it's really good, and everybody who didn't see Hell or High Water should see it. It took me, I didn't see it until December.
I knew you'd love it when I saw it.
Yeah, you told me. I knew you told me I'd love it, and I 100% loved it.
Okay,
It was pretty
real
perfect.
quick, favorite movies that you love this year that like people aren't talking about enough, that not enough people saw, that aren't turning up on a lot of lists that you want to kind of point people to.
Let me go back and look at my list. Everybody Wants Some is on my top 10 list.
good one.
That's a good one.
I'm going to go with, I have a couple. Take Me to the River, which I've talked about here before, which is on Netflix now, so you can see it. The narrative film, not the documentary. I haven't seen the documentary. I'm sure it's good too. And South Side with You.
Oh yeah.
I liked a great deal, and I think it kind of
Lovely.
came and went and didn't really.
I'll mention another Golden Tomato winner, Hunt for the Wilder People. Yeah, that's another one that's getting criminally overlooked.
Yes.
Okay.
These are probably because I didn't see enough this year to have ones that are massively overlooked. But I mean, I didn't remember us reviewing it. I wasn't here for it. But I mean, when people told me to see Sing Street, and I
Oh yay! I'm glad you thought of that one.
couldn't have loved Sing Street, and a movie we all loved and reviewed here. But I just saw that the director has only like 400 Twitter followers, so I guess it hasn't. But Tower was
Oh, yes.
Tower
Tower's
was
a good
so
one.
great, such
Definitely.
a great documentary about really America's first, not its first mass shooting, but the first mass shooting to capture the media's attention.
Yeah.
So all good ones. We're also going to talk about bad ones eventually. So go check these out, and thank you.